Hey everybody, this is a clip from the latest episode of the Randi Rhodes Show. If you want the full episode, you can watch live on Free Speech.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
U.S. sources tell NBC News that spy satellite data does suggest that this plane was shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile, at least one, maybe more, just within hours of Iran launching those ballistic missile attacks against U.S. bases in Iraq. This video shows that fireball, which many observers immediately thought suggested a missile attack. It did not suggest a single engine failure. It suggested a catastrophic instant activity at 7,900 feet just off the ground after takeoff, and that plane came down instantly, having lost all data, all communications, all GPS tracking, everything with the ground. The question or the thinking now is that what happened in Iran is that they were very much on edge and concerned about a possible U.S. retaliatory strike, and so SAM missile batteries were up and ready, and people were worried and watching the night sky all night. And somehow in that haze, in that confusion and that fear, this missile or missiles were launched at this commercial passenger jet carrying 176. Everybody dead, as you mentioned, mostly Iranian, Ukrainian, and Canadian citizens.
Come on! Come on! You're telling me that in the middle of an attack, in the fog of war, as they're characterizing it now, okay, that the Tehran International Airport in Iran, which obviously could have or would have been a retaliatory target for the United States, right? One flight was allowed to leave. It was allowed to leave at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was Ukrainian International Air. And then, whoops, 7,900 feet, not even at 10,000 feet yet, which is cruising out there. You know, there's still 2 minutes. It was 2 minutes into its flight, going up, not coming down. And all of a sudden, fog of war, 4 hours after the Iranians had already sent messages saying, we're done here. This is the extent of what we're going to do to retaliate against you assassinating the number 2 in Iran. We're all done. We're all done. They sent so many messages to the United States. They sent messages to Iraq. They sent messages to Russia. Everybody got messages from the Iranian. We're done. We're done. Okay. And then 4 hours later, one flight's allowed to leave. One flight. And it's a Ukrainian International Airlines flight headed to Kiev. And 2 minutes into its flight, whoops, trigger happy, boom, bam, it's out of the sky. Right, that makes sense. Especially when you consider that the missile is a Russian one. It's a Russian missile.
The night that plane went down, this country was on high alert. They had launched an attack on U.S. assets in Iraq, and they were expecting a counterstrike. And one of those obvious places for a counterstrike would be Tehran's main international airport.
Okay, so let's clear commercial flights for takeoff. Who does that?
So there is a fog here right now. There are also all sorts of fingers being pointed at each other. But Iran is steadfast in its opinion that this was an accident. Now, there are other rumors swirling around here, Stephanie. There are Ukrainian investigators on the ground here working with the Iranians, and some of the senior Ukrainian security forces have suggested that there were fragments of a Russian missile found on the ground in Iran. Now, Iran has a very close relationship with Russia. They buy a lot of their defense systems and missiles for them. So the situation, quite frankly, is becoming confusing. Now, the Iranians have said that they will cooperate, not necessarily with the Americans, but they will cooperate by giving the black box over to relevant authorities. If they give it to the French or somebody like that, more investigation can be done on this. But the important thing now is to see what those satellite images show and what the evidence on that black box is. But there's no doubt that this is going to ratchet up tensions further. The Iranians are going to accuse the Americans of trying to frame them for something they didn't do.
Okay. So obviously Ukrainian aircraft, Russian missile launched from Iran. Now the reason why we bring this up, okay, is because first of all, it was patently obvious to me that the media wasn't covering this particular part of the fog of war. Okay, this is not fog of war. This is the Russians sending a message to Donald Trump. Okay, a Russian missile hits a Ukrainian just by coincidence. It's all just a coincidence, right? Yeah. So a Russian missile hits a Ukrainian international airlines flight leaving out of Tehran, cleared for takeoff in the fog of war. And then we're being told, oh, it was a mechanical failure. Lie. The Iranians, obviously, world heavyweight champion liars, lied. Now, why am I telling you this? Because I want to retaliate against Iran or I want to retaliate against... No, I'm telling you this because the president is full of crap when he says that he would, retaliate against Iran if they did anything that they weren't supposed to do, and it would be so strongly. He's lying. He's lying. The president took a shot at the general in Iran to help get the subject changed from, it was, you talk about wag the dog, and now we do have dead people. We have dead Canadians. Lots and lots of dead Canadians, okay? Like 63 dead Canadians. Yeah. Oh, they were mostly Canadians and Ukrainians and Iranians on that flight. Apparently, the Iranians were home for the holidays, and they were going back to Canada, where they live. And it was full of toddlers, it was full of families, it was full of young people who had gone back to Iran for the holidays and then were leaving to go back to Canada. That's what and they had to go through Kiev. And they were on, oh, please, this president is so full of crap. And today, before we got the reporting, he gave one of these unhinged, Adderall-induced. And you know what? I will say, I see doctors on the internet. I see doctors, that there are doctors I follow because they're brilliant guys and I appreciate them. And so I have, an assortment of people I follow. And one of them is a really brilliant guy, doctor. And he goes, please don't, start trashing people who take Adderall because Adderall addiction, all that is trending. Because the entire United States of America understands this president has some sort of a drug problem. And so it's not the Adderall, it's the snorting of the Adderall, the off-label use, if you will, of the Adderall that makes this man addled. Now, before we got these reports that it was a Russian missile that hit that Ukrainian, just coincidental, everybody, and what did I say yesterday? I mean, I couldn't prove it, but I said, I think... because when I'm opining, I actually characterize it that way. But I said I thought. And so today Trump had one of these crazy, unhinged press conferences where the whole impeachment is a hoax. Everything is a hoax. And, and then he was asked about this plane crash. And here's what he said.
I have my suspicions. It was very, I don't want to say that because other people have those suspicions also.
Yeah, we do.
It's a tragic thing when I see that. It's a tragic thing. But somebody could have made a mistake on the other side. Could have made a mistake. It was flying. It was flying in not our system. No, it has nothing to do with us. It was flying in a pretty rough neighborhood.
So now Iran is allowed to make mistakes. You see what I mean? All of a sudden he could forgive Iran because it wasn't Iran. That was Russia sending a message to Ukraine. That was Russia sending a message to Trump. Get the hell out. We're taking over the Middle East. We took your bases in Syria. Thank you very much for giving them to us. And now we're going to take your bases in Iraq. Get out. I'm telling you, this is so... But we're supposed to believe it was a coincidence that Donald Trump is so forgiving now of Iranian missile launches against commercial aviation. Oh, yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. This is a clip from the latest episode of The Randi Rhodes Show. If you want the full episode, you can watch live on Free Speech TV, Dish Channel 9415, DirecTV 348, Sling, Roku, and Apple TV.